The morning sun poured through the towering glass pillars of the city's wealthiest financial tower, scattering gold across the gleaming marble floors. Executives hurried inside, their polished shoes tapping like ticking clocks, their eyes glued to screens filled with numbers worth more than most people earned in a lifetime. And in the middle of this river of wealth, standing barefoot on the cold floor with dirt smudged on her cheeks and her tiny hands trembling around a worn envelope, stood a little girl named Amira Jolie, staring at the queue for the customer service desk. She looked too out of place, too fragile, too invisible for this world of wealth. But she whispered the same words again and again, as if saying them could push her legs forward. I just want to see my balance, please. If you believe kindness and second chances can change a life, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales. Your support helps us spread stories that matter. No one noticed her at first. They brushed past her, adjusting their ties, sipping expensive coffee, talking loudly about stocks, mergers, and weekend trips to private resorts. Amira clutched the envelope closer to her chest. Her clothes were torn at the seams, stained with days of walking streets alone. Her hair, curly and wild, stuck to her forehead with sweat. She had come farther than she ever had in her life. She had come here with hope. Hope that one piece of paper might mean something. Hope that maybe, just maybe, this would be the day her life changed, but hope didn't fit well in places built on money. At the front desk sat Victor Holden, a man known throughout the building for his wealth and ego. At only 38, he had become one of the youngest millionaires in the state. Powerful, charming, and painfully arrogant, Victor walked with the confidence of someone who had never been told no. He wore a sharp navy suit, gold cufflinks, and a watch worth more than most people's homes. Everyone here feared him or wanted to be him. Victor liked that. As Amira stepped toward his counter, the guards in suits eyed her suspiciously. A few executives snickered under their breath. One pointed. Another shook his head, whispering something about street kids and wrong building. Amira swallowed the shame, blinking fast to keep the tears from spilling. She stood in front of Victor's counter, her voice barely audible as she held out the envelope. I just wanna see my balance. Victor raised an eyebrow, leaned back in his leather chair, and let out a loud laugh that echoed across the marble hall. The men behind him joined in, as if cruelty were a shared language. Victor wiped a tear from the corner of his eye from laughing so hard. You? A balance, he chuckled, waving his hand dismissively. Sweetheart, this isn't a charity. We handle real accounts here. Big numbers. You probably picked that envelope up off the street. Amira's lips trembled, but she didn't step away. It's mine, she whispered. My mom gave it to me before she left. Something flickered in Victor's eyes for half a second, annoyance, not sympathy. He snatched the envelope from her hand. It was old, creased, and marked with a bank stamp faded from weather. Across the top was written in a shaky hand, for Amira. When she's ready. Victor smirked. Ready for what? A reality check? He slid the envelope open and pulled out a small folded paper. Let's go through the comedy show then. When I scan this and it comes up 0, don't cry on my floor. Amira didn't answer. She couldn't. Her heart was beating too fast. Victor typed in the account number with mocking slowness, enjoying the spectacle. Others gathered behind him, executives, clerks, visitors, curious about the scene. The room buzzed with judgment and amusement, and then, the screen blinked. Victor leaned forward, blink, blink, then his face drained of color. The room went still, the executives waiting behind him froze, their laughter dying in their throats. The security guards stopped smirking. Victor's jaw hung open as he stared at the number on the screen, an account balance so large it didn't make sense. Not for a child. Not for anyone. The screen glowed with the amount, $18 for 73, 662.19. The little girl in rags was richer than almost everyone in that building. Victor blinked, shook his head, then blinked again. For the first time in years, he was speechless. His chest tightened as he stared at Amira. She looked confused, even scared, by the sudden silence. Where did you get this? Victor stammered, the arrogance melting off him. My mom, Amira whispered. She went away last year. She said this was for when I was old enough. I didn't know how much it was. I just needed to see. Amira hugged her arms around herself, shivering in the air-conditioned lobby. She didn't understand wealth or numbers. All she knew was that she had been hungry for 2 days, that the shelter she slept at was closing, and that she had nowhere left to go. Victor's throat tightened again. Something inside him cracked, something he didn't know was still there. Because suddenly he wasn't looking at a ragged little girl. He was looking at a mirror of himself years ago, when he was a scared boy abandoned by his own father, living in a tiny apartment with nothing but his mother's promise that life would get better, and here he was now, laughing at a child just like he once was. Victor stood so abruptly that his chair rolled back. Executives stepped aside as he walked around the counter and knelt next to Amira. She flinched, unsure of what was happening. Amira, Victor said softly, his voice shaking. You're safe here. I'm sorry for how I acted. I was wrong. Everyone was watching. No one dared to speak. He removed his suit jacket and gently placed it over her shoulders. It swallowed her tiny frame, but she pulled it around herself as if it were warm sunlight. You came alone? He asked. She nodded. You hungry? She nodded again. Victor swallowed hard. Come with me. I'll help you. Amira didn't move for a moment. No adult in a year had told her she was safe. No one had offered her help. But something in Victor's voice felt different, not pity, not guilt, but responsibility. She nodded softly. Victor stood and glared at the crowd of executives who had been laughing. If I catch any of you mocking a child again, he said, his voice low and cold, you won't be working here the next day. The hall went silent. Victor guided Amira to his private office on the top floor, a massive space filled with glass walls overlooking the city. He ordered a full meal delivered within minutes. Amira ate like she hadn't eaten in days. Victor sat across from her, watching, his chest tight with emotion. She looked so small at that giant desk. When she finished, Victor opened the account details. Her mother had left not only money, but a message. If my baby girl ever comes here, tell her I loved her more than anything. And take care of her if I cannot. At the bottom was a signature. Victor ran his hand over his face. He had known Amira's mother. Years ago, she had been an accountant in his company, brilliant, hardworking, kind. She had disappeared one day after a severe illness forced her to leave work. Victor never knew she had passed away. Never knew she had a daughter. Never knew she trusted the bank, and indirectly him, with her child's future. He closed his eyes, breath shaking. When he looked at Amira again, she was watching him with those deep, tired eyes. You don't have to be alone anymore, Victor whispered. Your mother left you more than money. She left you a future. And I'm going to help you reach it. I promise. Amira didn't speak. She simply stood, walked to him, and wrapped her thin arms around him. Victor froze, then hugged her back gently, as if she were made of glass. For the first time in years, he felt human again. By evening, Victor had arranged everything: legal guardianship processing, a safe apartment, personal tutors, and a full team to help Amira transition into a new life. But more importantly, he stayed with her. He listened to her stories, her fears, her memories of her mother. And as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Victor realized something: the little girl had saved him, too.